some of these theories that are thrown around about, how good and how comfortable life is for so many people. Associate Professor Stephen Keane, who's with the University of Western Sydney. Now, he actually is at the moment in London doing some work. He joins us on the phone. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Jason. It's morning over here, but I'm fine. How are you?
Good, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. I asked the question, what is the figure to survive? What is the figure to live comfortably? What do you think, and where do you think it is?
I'd say something over the $150,000 a year mark would be comfortable. Anything below that, if you're trying to pay a mortgage, you're in struggle town.
So we use that phrase, and struggle street, battlers. That's reality of probably most people tuned to us now.
Yeah, but the thing is, the cost of getting into the housing market is so enormous these days that if you actually want to live in Sydney and not rent, then you simply, anything less than far above the average income, you're in struggle street, because the proportion of the income you've got to devote to servicing the mortgage has gone through the roof as house prices have gone up. And even though we're paying a lot lower interest rates than we used to pay back in the late 90s, early 90s, if you take a look at the proportion of your salary after tax that you'd need to devote to paying the mortgage, just pay the principal plus the interest, it's gone from 20% of the average wage to get a first home loan back in 1992 to 80% of the average after tax wage in 2010. So of course, it's ridiculous. You can't 80% of your salary spent on that. What have you got left if you're an average income earner? Yeah. You've got a couple of, you're lucky to have $100 a week left over after that.
So the old discussion that has been had forever and a day is to what sort of wage do you need to earn to be able to pay a mortgage and to be able to survive with what life throws at you?
Mm.
Where do you reckon we're really up into those numbers? So an average wage earner living alone, or perhaps as the sole income earner in a family, at this magical figure of $65,000, is it possible?
Yeah, a single person simply can't even consider to take out a mortgage these days. You've got to be in a couple, and I make the joke occasionally, preferably you've got to be in a menage a trois. You need 3 incomes to cover it, because back in the past, back in 1992, which is not that long ago, if you just needed 20% of your after-tax salary to pay a mortgage, then you could consider taking out a first-home loan in Sydney. And this is talking across the nation, of course. It's always going to be worse in Sydney if prices are higher. Now, you've got to put 80% of your salary towards it and have 20% left over to try to survive on. Well, 20% of, the $60,000 level that let's say $80,000, the average salary is at, higher than the median, is just impossible. I mean, $16,000 a year, you've got to live on less than $300 a week. That puts you massively in poverty.
Stay with me, Associate Professor Steve Keane. Wilson Luna is an author and a financial expert. He's written a pretty impressive book, Your Family, Your Money. But over the years has collected a great database of people that he regularly polls on financial issues, many of them in this city of ours. He's with me. G'day.
G'day, mate. Thanks for having us on.
Look, thank you. Let me throw the number at you. I mean, you've heard Steve Keane's view of about $150,000 is the comfortable, the survival figure. What do you think it is?
Look, the research we've done, and I suppose a lot of the feedback, even there's a poll recently that came out with, about 47% of people in New South Wales consider it to be a six-figure city. So, I mean, it's not that far away from it, I wouldn't imagine. And funnily enough, only in 2007, those, when polled identically, it was the Sydney Business Chambers poll, actually, and it was about 24% thought they needed to earn over $100,000. The surprising part is exactly what you were saying, which is, when the tax office says that only 6% of our population actually earns over $100,000, so you begin to wonder, how they making the shortfall. And, our stats from the point of view of what it's going to cost moving forward even is, we've put a couple of numbers together, and we've sort of say over the next 12 months alone, the actual cost of living should go up by, close to $5,000 to $6,000. Obviously, a majority of that would be determined through the 3 interest rate hikes, which they're expecting. But also things like energy prices. You got energy prices that'll range between 7-12% increases. Water bills they're estimating 7%. Petrol prices, tax, train fares, ferry fares. And, so you wouldn't be too far away. My number is probably more around, 6 figures just above, probably over 100,000. You'd scrape and you'd probably be able to raise a family. But, the 150s and out there, I mean, that's probably more reasonable. sustainable in terms of if you want to have some kind of quality of life apart from just, just living day by day. And not only that, you'd preferably get that 100,000 or that, just over 100,000 through two incomes, i.e. split them up so your marginal tax rate is a lot lower as well.
You'd know today, and you probably have caught the news, that there's been a problem with payroll processing with one of the banks. And that means there's a lot of people today who are looking at bank accounts and knowing that there are deductions that are about to come out, and they won't be able to meet those deductions because they have no savings. I mean, look, I'd be one of those people. I don't have savings. It just about goes all the time, every pay. And I'm sure I'm in the vast majority of people who are working, and we use this phrase working poor. I'm not going to pretend I'm one of those, but if I didn't get paid next month, and the month after that, I'm going to the bank and appealing to their better nature.
Yeah, look, You'd probably go, the vast majority of Australians are in exactly the same situation. And it's just, just the cost of living, particularly in Sydney, funnily enough, because even things like our grocery prices, et cetera, sort of tend to increase faster than, there's a recent ABS that says that, our low, I'll tell you exactly, certain groceries are costing a lot more here in Sydney than what they are in other states. So we've got it a bit tougher than even in other states. So, although recent stats say that Melbourne's becoming the more, especially from a housing perspective, the least affordable, but, Sydney's there with them anyway.
All right, nice to talk to you. Thank you, Wilson Luna.
Thank you, mate.
Let me just go back to Steve Keane, who is in London, but he's at University of Western Sydney. So, Steve, we've often heard you say that, we're heading towards there's a kind of a bubble bursting and phrases like that, and you criticise for overstating. Yet, I who are really starting to do the maths and saying this city is just not for me, for what I do and for how I want to live my life now.
Oh, yeah, like I've had a member of my own family who moved to Adelaide because they just looked at it and thought it's a two-income family. They couldn't afford to even think about buying a place in Sydney, so you leave the city to get away from the expensive housing. So it really is having an impact on people's capacity to live in the city if they're anything less than in the absolute upper echelons of the income band. And that means you've got to be a lawyer or a doctor to get the places affordable. But, of course, if you're a lawyer and a doctor and you can't get a fireman or a nurse because they've got to move to another city, that's not a sustainable city. Something has to give.
All right, nice to talk to you, and thank you for coming on.